Hello and welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
And I'm Chris Costa.
What are we talking about today, Chris?
Well, I thought we could talk about adjustments, transfers, maybe specifically how to enter them.
In inventory, sure.
Any considerations while entering them, stuff like that.
All right. Couple things we can talk about just first is in inventory, for any inventory item, if you're going to make an adjustment, you're making an adjustment or a transfer to what you have on hand. And that what you have on hand might be in multiple records in the tables in Enterprise, and that could happen if, maybe you're using location codes. So you might have X amount in location 1, X amount in location 2. So you'd have multiple records
Sure.
in Enterprise. You might have multiple records if you're using a valuation method of LIFO, last in, first out, or FIFO, first in, first out.
Okay.
What that'll do is every time you receive inventory, it creates a separate record and documents the cost and the date and the quantity of that particular receipt. And it will keep track of each receipt with that quantity and that particular price and date.
Okay.
So when we do make adjustments or we do make transfers, you have to make sure that you're adjusting or transferring from the proper locations.
Right. Okay.
So let's take a look at
Yeah.
that.
Have you seen an example? Yeah.
All right, so let me open up Enterprise. And I'm going to open the inventory module. Keep in mind what we do here in inventory for adjustments and for transfers is also applicable to finished good items because they pretty much work the same way.
Okay. Perfect.
So let's take a look at this particular paper I have here. And you'll see this field at the bottom tells me how many I have on hand. I have 2,250 of this particular item. If I click on this button next to it, I can see actually the different records that make up that number. And now I have 3 different records here because I have different quantities in different locations in my warehouse. So let's take a look at this first item in location A1. I have a quantity on hand of 250. Well, say I go out and do a physical count and I realize, well, really, I have 3,000 in that particular location.
Right.
That's a case where you would make an adjustment and bring your inventory back up. So
Okay.
let's look at that. To make an adjustment, I'm going to close this window and I'm going to go over to the transaction screen. And I'm going to check the box to show just the specific item, and I'm going to select Adjustments. Then I can click on the Add button. And it will bring the information in for that particular item. But here's a key point. You want to click on the on-hand record here and select the particular on-hand record that you want to adjust. You would click on Select, brings in the location code and the cost for that item, and then you can put in the quantity. So I want to adjust this. I've got 250. I want to add another 500, so I'm just going to put in the 500 here and click OK. It asks me if I want to do another one. I'm going to say no. And when I go back to items and I click on this button, you'll see now that I've been adjusted to the 3,000. Okay.
Okay. Makes sense.
Another thing you can do is say you have a cost that's incorrect. You can go in and adjust that cost by doing a 0 adjustment.
Okay.
Okay? So say for this particular, maybe this particular receipt wasn't 15 cents, maybe it was 13 cents. I can close this item, this window here, go back to transactions. I can do and add another adjustment. I can click on hand, select my on-hand record I want to adjust, and when the price comes in, I can change it. But leave the quantity at 0. And when I click OK, I'll say no again here. And when I go back and look, you'll see that it adjusts the cost. Now, in this case, it adjusts all 3 costs because I'm using standard costing method. If you just want to adjust, if you're using FIFO or LIFO, it would have just adjusted the particular on-hand record.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense. Now, what if I have a quantity in one location, it should have been in another location, or I've overdrawn a specific location and it's gone negative. I should have drawn from another location.
Okay.
Do I have to do 2 adjustments to both, or?
Well, that's
is there a
one way to do it. You can do 2 adjustments, but you can also do a transfer and
Okay.
transfer the item from one location to another.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a look at that.
Sure.
So in this example, I've got a quantity on hand here of negative 500, and maybe I did a deduction that brought that down too low. I should have done it from this location here. What I can do is I can go over to the Transfer tab. Again, I'm still highlighted on the specific item. I'm going to select Transfers. I'm going to click on Add. And here I can tell it how many I want to transfer. I can tell it where I'm transferring it from and where I'm transferring it to. So let's first go to the transfer from. I'm going to select the location I'm transferring from, and I want to take that negative 500 out. It automatically put in the quantity for me. If I don't want to transfer the entire quantity, I can change it. And then I can either, if I want to put it into a location code that I don't already have any inventory in, I can just simply select a location code. If I want to put it into an existing location code that already has an on-hand record and a quantity in it, I can just select it from here. It brings in that location code and actually brings in the code for that particular on-hand record.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can click on OK. Now when I go back to here and take a look at my inventory, it's reduced that A1 location to 2,500 and basically transferred the items.
Okay. Now I noticed you left the quantity at minus 500, so if you highlight the negative first, transfer that amount, you want to leave it at minus 500, right?
Right, if you're transferring a negative number, yes, you want to leave it at the minus 500. If I only wanted to transfer part of that, though, if for some reason I wanted to transfer 250 into one location and 250 into another, I would put in a negative 250 to
Yep.
one and a negative 250
Yeah.
to the other.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, if I'm transferring something that has a positive value, you keep the value positive.
Yeah, because you could go the other way, right? Take the positive 500, move it to the minus 500, and zero it out
Correct.
that way, the same way.
Yes, you could do it that way,
So
too.
either way it'll work, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
I
Did
think
you have
that
any
makes
other
sense. No, I think that's good.
questions? All right, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
And I'm Chris Costa.
Please look forward for more to come.